What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Stats to Assets podcast. Today, we're talking about sports psychology with a special local guest from Austin, Texas, Dr. Hillary Cauthen, otherwise known as Dr. C.
That's right.
That's right. Let's go. Thanks for joining me on the show. This is exciting. How you doing?
Excited. I'm doing great today, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So just start us off. We're going to jump right in. Tell us what sports psychology is. It sounds like, okay, like I understand what it is, but what is it and like why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was a very simple answer. It's kind of complex. I love to tell people that I specialize in the head and the heart. And my kids, my 11-year-old, my second oldest, when she was 4, she would say, "Mama teaches people how to be happy," which
I love it.
I was like, oh man, you get it, the essence. But the field of sports psychology is really looking at the mental and emotional aspects of how someone thinks and how they act in the domain of sport. But if we brought it out even further, for me, especially knowing the word psychology, like I'm a clinical psychologist. So I'm a licensed psychologist dealing with all mental illness to the continuum of mental wellness. And then I also specialize in mental performance, which is the optimization of, the performance mindset. So sports psychology as a field goes well beyond just athletes. It's performers, it's the military, it's first responders, it's anyone in those high performance domains. And the way I view it is we're all performing in something.
That's cool.
Not just our athletes.
Yeah. Do you work with dancers?
Yes, performing arts is a huge thing. And so, there's a unique aspect to every discipline, and our artists and our dancers are a unique nature in themselves.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because when I was thinking sports psychologist, I'm a former professional basketball player. I just thought sports, catching the ball, running around, all that, and I forgot I'm also a dancer. New dancer. I'm not good, you know what I'm saying? But I'm in the community. I forgot. I didn't think about performers and musicians and all the things like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And fun fact, I used to teach hip hop dance back in the day.
Let's go. I knew
mean, it was for a
I knew something.
I might have a workout video out there. I'm not lying.
I love it. We're gonna find it, y'all. I'm gonna link
it in
the
DVD.
description.
We don't get it anymore.
DVD, right? Like I'm glad it's on the DVD.
Right.
Is there any? So now that you said that about athletes being more broad, right? I'm curious of the findings that you have had. Like, what is similar between, sports? So athletes like that play basketball, track, run, and then like other performers, dancers and people that are on stage just doing things.
Yeah, I think that's where we just look at performance and then you look at the competitive nature where they're at, right? So even working with individuals that, like, I'm an athlete and I am a competitive athlete because I'll compete in certain events, but I'm not on a team and I'm not a competitive athlete where you think of like professional or, the traditional sports. But in general, I think every performer has this need to succeed. They're all high performers in nature, whether you're, like we talked about, first responders in a high, fast-paced environment that's all about results and outcome-oriented. Are you saving lives or not?
Right.
To the dancer who is on stage, either a part of the choreo or the front and center soloist, like all eyes on them. You can't mess up. There's a routine and a nature, and, it is a performance to then a basketball team performing on a court in front of people with different plays. So all of it is a beautiful artistic way of how can we perform the outcome to our best ability. And I work on the part of, can you think that way? Can you logically be in the present mindset? Can you emotionally be engaged in that and have that performance be the best it can be?
That's so interesting. I'm curious, like when you first start to work with somebody, what are the things that you're talking about or doing first? Like, how do you meet with them?
Yeah, I mean, really, they just come in and I just get to know them.
Yeah.
The first initial session, I usually have a general intake. Either they've emailed me or they called me before, and I have a little bit of an insight of what they're looking for. But if it's an adolescent, usually the parent's the one who's kind of put them in. Right. And so I always ask, like, hey, like, what do you know about what I do? Because I first want to know, what is their understanding of what the work could look like? And do I have to debunk some myths and educate them? And then I ask them, like, what do you want this to look like? What are you hoping to get out of this? Before we even get into any of what presenting concerns might be for them, I just want to spend time with, what does this space look like for you? And can I help make it feel safer and better for you so we can do the work?
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes sense. What's the youngest client that you've worked with?
The youngest I've ever worked with is a little 5-year-old soccer player. Stop. It was wild. So when I first got into the field and started doing my practice, I was getting my doctorate degree, but I was out in LA and I was coaching soccer and I wanted to work and do mental performance work. And so I was working on a club soccer team and they had these little like academy U6 teams.
Yeah.
And the coach was like, yeah, come work with these
U6,
kids,
right?
right? Like they're U6 players and he's like, their concentration,
Yeah.
and they were young boys and they was all over the place. That was the most fun I had. While it was challenging to think theoretically, how do I teach these same mental skills that I might teach a 28-year-old pro? It got me to be able to be catchy and vibey and fun and creative. And they ate it up and loved it. And they were all bought in and it was beautiful.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Why I want to talk to the youth sports organizers, the programs, and those coaches or people that develop those. Why is it important to have someone like you come in and work with the kids, or not kids, but athletes,
Yeah.
or even just consult the coaches?
Yeah.
Why is that important today, in today's sports, where like sports are starting so young and they're so competitive and so stressful for,
Yeah.
5-year-olds up to
Yeah.
33, right?
I mean, it's interesting, right? When I first started studying the field, youth sport was a passion of mine. It was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. Then you have aspirations, working the pro level, and it's like, where are you finding yourself? And with sport and looking at the trajectory, like since I started studying 20 years ago, the statistic has yet to change where 70% of athletes are dropping out of sport at 13.
Yep.
Like it hasn't changed. We hear that stat over and over again. And I'm like, what is my field not doing right to make that stat decrease and have kids fall in love with sport and the beautiful aspects that we all romanticize it to be. And then I look at society and the trajectory of where sport's going and the business of sport and sport tourism, and we're losing opportunities for youth athletes because we've made sport about money and we've taken people who already couldn't afford certain aspects of sport. We've given them less of an opportunity because it's not about play. It's not about connectivity and social relationships. It's result-oriented driven, and it's about money. And why people need someone like myself and my colleagues in the field is, one, to help those students that are performing and help the athletes learn how to learn the life skills, learn the social skills, not have the pressure around performance, even though performance is there and there's pressure, like how to define it differently, how to have them find success in themselves. And coaches also, need to have that support. And for the youth, like parents, right? I do a lot of parent education around your 8-year-old is not getting recruited tomorrow. Your 8-year-old is not going to get recruited in 3 years from now when they're 11. Like it's not happening. These ID camps, these if they're on this level, like they're just taking your money.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real, and I think developmentally, you really have to look at what sport should you specialize in, at what age. If you hear all the pro athletes talking about, they were all multi-sport. Unless you're in a very unique sport like gymnastics or certain levels of dance and ballet, like when you need to go into that earlier on because you'll age out of your body in the sport, you should play, you should have time off. Developmentally, our bodies are growing. Like we're doing a disservice to our kids by having them specialize and be in certain sports year round.
I agree with that thought of like allowing athletes to try and do different sports until it's like you have to pick your sport, right? I think I know that new basketball was like my thing, but my mom put me in everything. She was like, "You're gonna do roller hockey?" I was like, "I can't skate," but soccer, track, all the things until like maybe high school. It was like, okay, you don't have to do track and all the things and volleyball or whatever. Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. Like I talk about specialization. It's like usually around the age of 16, should you start knowing more, and you might know a little bit earlier on. It doesn't mean you quit all your other sports. It means maybe you just play high school sports and you quit all the other select and club and year-round stuff. And you only do that for one of your things, and then you start to get a little bit more focused on, this is my niche, and so how can I train that? How can I talk to those coaches? How can I lean in? And, I'm looking at that with my daughter right now. My oldest is 13 and a half. She's going into 8th grade and she's multi-sport and she's trying new sports and she's giving up other things. And, one of her basketball coaches who recruited her literally off a camp playground when she was 7, and she's been with him ever since. And I love it. He developed her and all that. But he calls me up and he's like, hey, like, she's good at a lot of things. and she's a good basketball player, but she's not a great player. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't specialize her in being a shooter, and you played her 1 through 5 positionless basketball, right? She's just playing. But does that deter her in where she's at? Maybe. But she's also like, she made a select soccer team. She loves running, and she's like figuring out her way. And it's like, I'm looking at her, I'm like, yeah, a multi-sport athlete is usually pretty good at a lot of things.
Right.
And then they decide when they want to be great. And that's what I want people to know is you can be good at a lot of things. You can have struggles. When you decide to commit to something, then the hard work will always outweigh the talent, and you can go after your goals that you want to have when you're in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. What mental advantages do you see with multi-sport athletes versus maybe an athlete that just does one, kind of growing up?
Yeah,
if there are any.
Yeah, and I think I even go back to my college coach who told me he purposely recruited multi-sport athletes. I think because the brains work differently, the body works differently, because you actually have the ability to not just have like a linear motion, but you can be like, longitudinal and latitudinal based on if you're a field player to like a solo, like I was a track runner, right? Do I run in a straight line or around a circle? Or can I go after a ball and chase after something and have that competitive edge?
Yeah.
And so multi-sport athletes learn different social skills. They learn different role clarity of where they're at. They then can take ownership of their abilities, and their muscles develop differently, and they have the capacity to now commit to certain things when they kind of decide to specialize.
So let's talk about your book. Let us know the name of it, the title, and what do you talk about in there?
Yes, the book is called Hello Trauma, Our Invisible Teammate.
Hello Trauma.
Hello trauma. Yeah, it's a juxtaposition, right? Why you want to like hello drama? And every chapter, the first 12 chapters, is kind of welcoming you to the process of the experience of what someone who goes through trauma is. So like there's hello gaslighting, hello minimization, all these things that you don't normally want to welcome into your life. And that's kind of the essence of the book. If you've gone through something traumatic, which 70% of Americans report they have, not just reporting. So we know a lot of people have faced a lot more than that, or at least have been a part of a family who has experienced something. So we know that trauma is in all of our lives, and that's what the book first does. It defines trauma in a way where it's like stubbing your toe to a car accident to a sexual assault, like it's all trauma. And it's the psychologically meaning behind those events that then impacts you. And that's what this book is about. And so the first part is really helping people understand that if you've gone through something, it will always be with you, and it can be your best teammate or it can be your worst teammate. And I want people to have this be a part of a really good teammate so their life can function fully and they can work through it. And so I help make meaning of the experience of this, emotionally bring people in if they're like, I've never felt that and it's not a part of it. Each chapter starts and ends with a journal entry to really help you emotionally understand someone's life.
Yep.
And then it psychologically kind of makes sense of why this happens in our brain. And then the second part, which is my passion for my work and what I've always built my life around, is kind of this call to action using sport as a microcosm of society of, if we don't get this culture right, we're causing more harm to our athletes and the individuals in this environment and creating more trauma. And so it's kind of saying, hey, how do we make these cultures better? Because right now they're pretty toxic.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a really big push, and it's a huge push. But can we change sport to make it good and safe?
Yeah, definitely good and safe. I want to talk about some things that AAU teams, college teams can implement into their culture.
Yeah.
Of how do you just start having a holistic approach or a mental health approach and focus for your athletes and coaches?
Yeah, I mean, and that builds off of like the theme in the book, the theme for my TED Talk, which built from this, which is developing a culture of care for culture champions. And it really talks about how do you develop a culture of care, and the environments, any team, AAU, college, doesn't matter, club soccer, the team itself, the culture has to be this essence of caring about the player, like at a deeper level. Everyone says they care about their players.
Yep.
Words are one thing. What do the actions look like? How are you consistent in the way you talk to people every day? Are you consistent in the boundaries and the standards of excellence? And every time I talk about emotionally connecting to athletes and creating this culture of care, I hear a lot of this, well, that's soft and that's not what sport is. And I'm like, well, I didn't say you can't try to win.
Right,
There is a standard of excellence that you can have in a successful
We're doing
culture,
both here.
right? And so that's the difference of, I want you to have a standard of excellence. I want you to have expectations and a set of professionalism and how to show up and hard work, but you have to teach people that. But people will not buy into you if you don't actually care about them.
True.
And so when you say, and coaches say this all the time, I have an open door policy. I'm sure you experienced that. Did you have an open door policy?
I wasn't going in the door.
Exactly. Because it wasn't safe, right?
Yeah.
You didn't trust that you could go in there and have your needs be met and feel seen and heard without some consequence or something happen,
Judgment, yeah.
right? And so don't say you have an open door policy if you don't have one. Don't be that person if you can't be that person. So I tell coaches, if you can't be the person who can emotionally hold space for them, find someone on your roster who can, and let that coach be that person. They're your player person then. They manage the players, you manage the X's and O's, and then the team knows. But you still are a part of caring about the people.
Yeah. Do you have any examples of coaches from collegiate or professional that you like what they're doing as far as culture?
Yeah, I think if we look at the Austin community and we look at Coach Sark and Texas football, right, and you hear the lessons he's talked about and you hear the players that have been from him and the boundaries he's set and the standards, like he has developed a culture that the players know what they expect when they go in. They're not blindsided and told a false story as recruits coming in, right?
Yeah.
Like you
That
get
happens
told
all the time, right?
Yeah, you get told this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen, right? He spends the summer with all their players doing a culture Wednesday. He spends time wanting the players to connect to each other, connect to their coaches, and that is actions behind the words he does. He really does mean what he says, and he's developed that, and you can see the success they've had from that program that he's built.
I'm interested, building off of that, how can coaches or leaders of organizations do that same thing with their coaches?
I mean, coaches have to be open and key stakeholders have to be open to doing the work themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think with Sark as an example, he shared the struggles he's gone through. He shared the advice he's been given through other coach mentors he's had, through other work he's done with professionals in the space. So coaches who have a good coach network with mentors, coaches who utilize sports psychologists or mental performance coaches to actually educate them on, hey, how do I hold space for my players? How do I build this culture? I want to do this, where they now get to understand and they also take care of themselves. They utilize the skills that they're saying are important for their players. They're doing that. And it starts with coaches working with coaches before they can even expect change in their athletes.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any not organizations, but institutions that you know of that actually have a sports psychologist on their team roster? Like they are a part of the team, they travel.
Yeah, we see more and more of that growing. I think since 2016, the NCAA started the best practices for mental health. They just re-upped it in 2024, where now like there's a legislation where you have to have a provider who can be a part of that services for the NCAA.
Okay.
Now it looks a little bit different for each university setting, but we're seeing more and more sports psychologists and mental performance groups being in-house at the university level. When we look at the professional level, we see almost every CBA in pro sports, not all, but we're almost there, all require some level of either a contracted person to a certain number of hours to a fully embedded placement in these teams.
That's cool.
It's baseball is the leading employer for our field. They have been for a long time.
Really? Okay.
In sport. Military is our highest employer.
Okay. And
And then we look at baseball. They've really believed and bought into the performance side of things and working through this and have multiple people, not just one. It's really difficult, though, because you see people who go into a space and then the team wins and then they get let go because, it's result-based versus having someone who's there all the time in maintenance mode, right? And the best comparable thing, I just had a conversation about this being like, it's funny that we put ourselves out of a job when the team starts doing well. And the myth before I used to have to debunk is saying like, hey, people don't always come to see me when there's a problem. Because a lot of time when you think about sports psychology, you're like, oh, they must have a problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, people can be winning. They want to come work with me.
Yeah.
Now the myth I'm trying to break is just because you're successful, it doesn't mean you stop the work, right? That's kind of saying
Absolutely.
like, hey, you got your strength goals going, so you should just stop lifting.
No.
Like, what would that do for you?
That's a good analogy. They'll be like, oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, and so, this is like what we're trying to work through is like, no, we want maintenance mode. We want to work through this. So the push now is not just having one person for 900 athletes. Can you have multiple people?
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Slowly. But
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a surprising stat with baseball kind of leading that charge, but it's great.
Yeah.
How's softball doing?
Well, I mean,
Like
if we look at the pro level, some people don't even know that there's pro softball teams, right? Which is going. Major League Baseball is supposed to be lifting that one up. I think at the university level, these softball programs, some universities for sure have people, right? The hard part in our field is with confidentiality, depending on the provider and if it's public or not, right? We're often kept behind the curtain. We're in the shadows. You don't know who's working with who or who's doing what. And so I think that's a hard place to be in, right? Of like, who is working with public, unless someone's publicly talking about it.
That's true.
You just never know.
You never know. Dang, just doing good work. Nobody knows.
Yeah, right.
What's been one of your biggest struggles, I would say, or just hardest moments working with a client in general?
You know, early on, I think working with the 18 to 24-year-old female athlete, when I was a young female in the field, two alphas coming at each other, because those female athletes, and you probably relate to this, like you're prescribing to male norms of what you feel we should act and be as, right? Sport's very masculine in nature, and so like we don't show our emotions as much as we might in real life, and we can only show certain emotions, and we can't even be aggressive, because then if we're aggressive, like we're gonna get called out for that, and you can't trash talk. So there's a lot of like boundaries of how you're supposed to act and be in sport as a woman, and then myself being a female leader, kind of like paving the way for certain aspects. I had to be a certain way. And so we kind of clashed, because most women are in society like kind of challenged against each other. There can only be one woman who's successful, right? And like we're seeing a shift of like, let's raise women up. But like, let's be real. Like one woman gets a chance and like, that's the woman. And I got to fight for my spot.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me to connect and break the barriers with these young female athletes as much as I wanted to, because it was like we were trying to show our way of strength versus like let the vulnerability be real in the room. Thankfully that shifted, and I work with a lot of beautiful women and have done my own work on how can I connect and like create a softer space and raise women in professional leadership. But that was a difficult challenge at first.
What's your funnest moment or just most memorable moment of like maybe an aha moment for you? You're working with somebody, you get a breakthrough, and you're like, oh, that wasn't what I thought it was, but I'm glad we got here. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have lots of those all the time. I'm like real creative and catchy and stuff. And so like, I'll just come up with some random intervention and be like, let me see if this works. And I'm like, sweet, that was awesome. I think the most beautiful moments for me, because I'm very protective of the clients that I work with. And oftentimes a lot of people don't know all the breadth of the work that I do, because I don't highlight that stuff. I don't talk about that. I don't share that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I'm very diligent when I get to watch my athletes perform, and I'll watch them if I'm watching them on TV or something, and I see them reach their goals and I see the success. Like it's like this treasured moment that I hold in my heart, being like, you shared with me what your goals were, and I'm watching you do that. I'm watching you be successful, and I'm celebrating that. But like no one really knows I'm celebrating it but me and them.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to watch people go after their goals and then reach them.
That's awesome. You gonna help me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I just love it. It's like, I mean, it's such a beautiful moment.
I'm gonna tell you all my past basketball traumas.
Yes.
Alone, I do remember going to therapy in college at UT, and I didn't know. I don't know why. I was like, I told somebody I felt safe with, which was our lead trainer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need help. I was coming out, and my mom wasn't taking it very well. And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but this is what's happening. And I don't know how I had the understanding of like, or the vulnerability, the ability to say, I need help. I need to see somebody, right? And I got paired with someone. And so my therapy journey has been on and off and on throughout my whole career, starting as like an 18-year-old. And then, I came out my freshman year, and then I tore my ACL against Duke back in the day. I'm like, when Duke was like fire, I was like, everything was on fire. You know, my whole life flipped upside down, whatever. But I don't know why I didn't go back to finding a therapist while I was overseas for 8 years.
Right.
I struggled big time, having these knee injuries and just always being in pain and like, scared that I was going to get hurt in practice and in the game, you know, like that cloud on top of performance, year and year and after year, and having to continuously prove yourself just for the dream. It was a lot. It was
Oh
wild.
yeah. And like the fact that you told your trainer, like that's the first step that our athletes go a lot. Like we say a lot in the field, like the trainer is the one who hears all the things.
Yeah.
You know, even more than we'll hear. Cause like I see them like once a week and it's like the trainers with you all the time.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And
they
so
are.
I build a lot of relationships with our trainers to understand what to look for, where they're at, you know, have they have that mental health IQ to know like when they have to refer to somebody. I am not surprised at the time when you were coming out in one of the most stressful places for you personally, your freshman year, which is a different training load, competing.
Yeah.
You know, when you think you're the best and now you're against everyone else who's the best, and it's like, oh, where do I fit on this role? To then just being a female athlete and the susceptibility to ACL tears, I'm not surprised you tore your ACL at that most emotional, vulnerable moment because our body carries that stress and is more susceptible to those injuries.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm glad that I had that support, and I'm glad that all athletes are getting that now, more so, and people they're putting it into the culture of different universities and things like that.
We got a long way to go, but there's a start. There's a hope. You know, I think it's hard. It's hard. I just read a stat where like the depression and anxiety experienced by athletes is like way higher than our general pop in terms of like what they would experience because of the microcosm bubble that they're in. And they're still less likely to go get help because of the stigma. As much as we're trying to reduce the stigma around there, you know, I think the stigma of mental health is decreasing. And I always get on my pedestal about mental health is not mental illness. Mental health we all have. We all have feelings and we all have to think.
Yeah.
That's mental health.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like your physical health. We all have it. Mental illness is very different. That's when we actually have symptomology of like depression, anxiety. It's like you go from allergies to cold to the flu, right?
Got it.
Disease level, right?
Yeah.
So our mental health, we all realize, everyone has that. But for people to go seek help on how to better themselves is still really hard.
Do you know why is that though? Like, what do they think that means about them?
Yeah, I think one, we look at culturally, like representation. Did they have people in their culture speak about vulnerability and emotions?
Big thing,
And, you know, in certain cultures, some people do, some people definitely don't. They're told not to. They're told we keep it in the house, you know?
That's right,
Then you magnify a new culture of sport, which is like, well, now you got to be this way. And so they have one culture telling them, we don't talk about anything outside of our house, right? Like, we're not going to snitch on anything. We ain't going to show any weakness. Like, no way, man. Or the fear of, if I show that I'm having this emotional struggle, will you take away my ability to play? Will you think I'm weak? Will this lose my chance in my roster? And we know sport, especially at the professional level, it's about money. It's a contract, it's a job. You know, you can't have anything that looks like you're weak.
That's true. Definitely cool to note and true about the cultural aspect of what families, how they relate to what mental health is, and if somebody does need help, how comfortable they are to go get it. Yeah.
And it's about, you know, like resources too, right?
Yeah.
I think the cool shift to see is generationally, like my athletes, like they get it. These young athletes are going to speak about it all the time. They want health. They're almost like, I need a mental health every single day. And I'm like, well, let's not overuse the mental health.
Let's not overdo it.
Sadness is not depression. Let's be real. Like, you just had a bad day. So
I need to talk to somebody.
You know, these young kids, they're on their TikTok and Reels and they already know. But it doesn't mean the culture is there to help them. It doesn't mean the coaches get it or the stakeholders get it or the organization is ready to help them.
Man, you gotta go all the way up to make sure that it seems like to make sure the players are getting the full effect.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's just them, it can take longer because of the culture and the verbiage and messaging that they're still getting in their environment.
Yeah, that's where I struggle. Do I help with my stakeholders up top? Do I help with my young athletes down here? Like, I'm like, can't we just teach emotional regulation to my little babies in elementary school and teach them all about their feelings and how to handle stuff, and then we'd be better?
That would be way better, way
know.
better. I wanted to talk about, what did you say? Mental illness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about, I guess, mental illness as it refers to athletes or performers, right? So I don't know if this is mental illness, but for me, I recently kind of got diagnosed with ADHD, like borderline, and I have really bad focus now.
Yeah.
I don't remember not being able to focus well when I played basketball. I feel like I was the most focused.
Okay, this
Can we
is
talk
beautiful.
about this?
Yes,
All right.
I love the ADHD. So ADHD is a clinical diagnosis.
Okay.
It would fit the criteria of a mental illness. It's a brain processing, disorder, right?
Okay.
Different types, hyperactive to inattentive.
Yep.
It looks different as a youth to when you get older. And there's so many depths where people just think it's like, oh, squirrel, oh, can't focus. Like, no, these kids, their brains usually think in black and white, right or wrong, really about justice. And like they have a set pattern of why they feel things are a certain way. And when it doesn't fit that script, it's really emotionally hard for them. And then social skills can be really hard, and cues of talking, and like maybe you want to interrupt because you can think faster than other people.
Right.
Like, it's, oh man, and patience. And so my athletes, though, there's a lot of athletes that have ADHD, and in certain sports, they're really good because they can hyper focus. And so basketball for you, you could lock in and you could focus, you could pay attention to where the ball was at and set shift and get there quick and be really good at certain things. Pitchers in baseball, they've been known because they can hyper focus on where they got to go and tune everything else out. And so it's a beautiful thing that sport, one, can help with how your brain works. But then what it also does is, because you have the routine, rigid schedule of where you have to be, what you got to do. Like when you're an athlete, you ain't got to program your life. Like it's programmed for you, especially when you're in high school and college and if you go pro.
Yep.
That's the hardest part, is when you transition out of those settings, because it's like, who's going to tell me what to do? Where
What am I supposed to do? I feel like I'm missing practice. I'm retired though.
And then you're not allowed to take 2 days off because you're like, I can't take a day off. And so there's a lot that comes with it. But I'm not surprised that your brain could be super locked in when you had these routines and you were doing a certain thing, and your brain could focus on the task that it had to do it.
And also I really noticed it once my mom passed, like 4 years ago, and I couldn't focus. But it's coming back around right now, and I'm like, and I talked to my therapist about it, and we, kind of had that discovery of, okay, maybe this isn't a grief thing, but maybe this is something that's happening right now.
Well, and it's all in that frontal lobe in the neural, if you sit where the brain sits, that emotional regulation is all in our frontal lobe, right? And so anxiety and depression are near those same neural pathways. The inability to make decision making and cognitive functioning, which is where the ADHD brain sits. That's why we see a lot of athletes have 2 disorders at the same time. Maybe they're anxious and have ADHD because the neural pathways are so close in the process and the way the brain functions. Like,
that's interesting.
So you have to look at where the neural pathways are, and that's why sometimes it's really hard to differentiate, what's going on with somebody, what's presenting in this case. And so sometimes I'm like, let's not look at the label of the diagnosis unless that helps you feel better. Let's look at what symptoms are presenting and how we can work through those and then utilize them to your benefit.
Okay. I do want to talk more about mental illness and athletes or performers, because I want to bring more attention to it and help people understand, and that it's out there, let coaches know it's out there. What other mental illnesses are, I guess, top or prevalent with athletes and performers that you might have worked with?
Anxiety is the number one.
Anxiety
is the leading one. When we look at, of course, like it's pressure oriented, anxiety is a fear-based disorder, right? There's a fear of safety, a fear of some security level, right? So in sport, are you secure enough? The fear of failure, fear of evaluation, fear of not having a job, all of these things come up, right? So anxiety is super high. And then we see depression. In certain populations, we have eating disorders. Which is very prevalent in the nature. And then I think the other subcategories, like people can have grief, they can have trauma, they can have PTSD, they can have higher levels of certain things that show up that maybe aren't as common in other areas. But the dancing community, right? Any subjective, like female gymnasts, our divers, our even some of our cross-country distance female runners that are wearing clothing and uniforms that are more exposing to themselves, beach volleyball, right, that are, you don't think they're about body image, but they're a lot about body image. And then in our aesthetic sports, where also you're judged on the aesthetics of how you look, like equestrian riders, like there's a lot of body image stuff that shows up.
Wow, this is interesting. Do you see any differences with male to female mental illness differences on like what's more prevalent for one?
Well, it's more about who's going to report it. So women are a lot more likely to report that they're having struggles and problems and the prevalence of that. Like suicide is the second leading cause of death in our collegiate athletes.
Wow.
Which is really concerning, and that's a level of depression and really something that we have to change.
Okay.
At that level, that we're not protecting our athletes enough to have an ability to not allow them to make that choice, and so I think men and women might feel the exact same thing, but who talks about it, who's open about it, and we know society has allowed women to express their emotions more verbally. And, we're known to be hysterical, right? Like manic depression used to be called hysteria, which was, because we're hysterical women. And so like we're known to be external processors of that.
Yeah.
Athletes are a little bit different because they can't be hysterical, but they're still more emotionally able to communicate it and be okay to talk about it.
Okay, that's interesting. What's your favorite topic to talk about within what you do? Or I know maybe you can't pick one, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I say like I specialize in athlete mental health. So talking about mental health as a whole holistic approach, and then diving into the nuances of mental illness and how to prevent these things, for sure. More recently, I've always talked about the toxic culture, since 2018, and going into trauma, and that important part is for sure like my avenue now of like, let's change this system. Let's look at these cultures. We got to do something differently because the stats aren't changing. They're getting worse.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so very cool. I'm like, all these questions, squirrel brain.
Yeah.
How do we bring family members, right? Parents first, grandparents, whoever's around, young athletes and just collegiate professional athletes. How do we bring family into this to help them be an assistant to these athletes?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful response, because for youth, right, like because it's become such a business, we're removing the families from it, right? And I'll give an example, like the club soccer team that my kids are now all a part of, right? They made the select club soccer and these academies. I love it in the essence of like parents can't be on the field when the kids are practicing and let the kids go practice, but also the removal of that support there's a barrier. And that already happens at college, right? There's the laws that exist for education, and once you're 18 or older, like your parents can't be involved. So now you're removing the support system, in college already that exists. Well, now we're removing them in the youth level, and that's like really dangerous to remove the social support of family. Even though I get that these parents are crazy on the sidelines, I understand.
They're out of control. Some of them.
Right. But to your point,
still.
what could we do? Well, we could educate them. We could provide resources for them. We could have talks for them to go to, or articles. At the end of the day, parents really just want their kid to be successful and happy.
That's right.
Partly, they want to invest in their kid and want them to be successful and shine, but they also just want their kid to be happy and be the best kid they can be. And so why don't we have conversations for parents, give them resources, have them have a class, have them a coaching session for them where the kids are doing stuff, then we can educate them on how to make sure their kid's okay.
Right.
The hard part is no parent wants to think their kid could be that kid who's sad or depressed or anxious or not doing well. No parent wants to view their kid that way. And so they might not want to listen to the resources at the time because they're like, well, that's not going to be my kid.
Do they have to not always be neutral, but they have to find this neutral position to make sure that they're seeing things correctly so that they do catch things, right? If they don't want to see their kid as they're sad, but
I think our wording can be different too, right? If you know the parents are all about how can you help their kid succeed, then you got to word your messaging to the parents. This information is going to help your kid be successful versus, hey, watch out for these warning signs. So we can do a better job of like, don't make mental health scary.
Yeah.
Like, look at the beautiful side of mental wellness and be like, man, if you do these things and make your kid be happy at home and eating well and sleeping well and hydrating and having fun with their friends, they're going to thrive on the field. Like, don't talk about, and we always talk about what not to do and what to look for and the warning signs. And like you see it on food labels and FDA and all the things that could happen and medication that could kill you, like all the scary stuff.
Yeah.
What if we talked about all the beautiful things that could happen if we started doing X, Y, and Z?
Reframe it. Yeah. You're a parent. You're a mom, right?
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
4 girls.
4 girls.
Four
girls. Love it. What's been some cool like findings or experiences with your girls in sports and just them understanding mental health?
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a good culture. It's in your family.
We do.
They have a head start.
It's in our genes. They know. They do their cool down breaths since they're like 2, right? They know
Cool
breathing
down.
is like the most essential thing. Like I love my 9-year-old. She's my 3rd oldest or, third youngest, whatever we want to look at it.
Yeah.
My 3rd kid. She's like my mindfulness guru. She's like, Mom, can we listen to mindfulness tonight? So she listens to mindfulness before she goes to bed. She'll sit outside. She's like, I just need to feel the wind. I'm like, who are you? Like, I love it, but I'm like, who are you? I have failed as a parent, though. I have broken my own rules where I was like, okay, I'm not going to put my children in these competitive club environments until they're at least 8 or older, like cognitively, until they can actually understand the words that coaches are saying when they say be aggressive and like understand their left or right. And like I had these like frameworks of like they can just play and be in these rec levels, and they don't have to do that club stuff till they're 8.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I failed my first kid because remember she was recruited on the basketball court at 7.
Yep. A year early.
Failed her already. You'd think I'd learn. I think I was all right with the second one. Like she's just now going into club level at 11. She was playing rec for a long time. She's kind of finding her way. Same with my 9-year-old. She's like my little free spirit chicken. She's my mindfulness little guru. Like she's tried lots of stuff, figuring it out. She's probably my best athlete.
Yeah.
If she like wanted to, but she's like, meh.
She's the artist. I
She is
feel
an
the
artist.
energy
She's
from
such
her.
an artist. She is. And then you come to my now 6-year-old. Mind you, she's been 6 for a week. I have failed her where she's playing rec soccer, like super young, dominating.
Killing it.
She's super tall. So I'm like, let's just put her in an academy. The tryout last year at 5. Like, what am I thinking? Of course, she makes the academy team. She was playing with 8-year-olds.
Yeah. Oh my
at
gosh.
5.
Dope.
And my husband's like, why are these kids able to do so much stuff? Like, our kid's so behind. I'm like, first of all, she is not behind. She's 5. I'm like, they're turning 9. And he's like, what? I'm like, I know, we should not have her in this team. Like, so I put her in this academy. She's tried out again. She's still in the academy.
Yeah.
And, I've gone back and forth of like, is it because she's my youngest and she's just really talented because she's leaned after her sisters? Is she that talented? I don't know. She's 6, but she loves the sport. She's getting good training. She's in a developmental group. And I'm like, maybe it is early. We'll have her do other things if she wants, but why not let her own her talent and like lean into it and have fun? But I'm also like, why am I paying $400 for that kit and all these practices and all this,
right? You got sucked into the matrix too.
I did. So I kind of I balance it out. Like my oldest is multi-sport, does lots of things. We're having good discussions now. She's been on a basketball team for AAU for a long time, the same club, and she feels stuck and she's lost some of her motivation and doesn't feel like she's getting the skill that she needs to. And she's like, I don't know if I want to play club anymore. And so we're like, what would it look like if you didn't play? And like, how do you work through that? And I remember her walking into a tournament. She's like, okay, I just work on like my focus. And here's my goals today. This is what it's about. I was like, man, like, who taught you that? She's like, yeah, like my mental skills coach. I'm like, who are you talking to? And she was like, you. I was like, are you cheating on me? Like, who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to?
I don't realize how much they actually really are listening.
That's cool.
And it's a beautiful, with her especially, the conversations we have. Like, I picked her up from camp today even, and we're talking. She's like, yeah, Mom, I was telling my teammates, like, my mom runs with me, and my mom trains, and she does high rocks. And they're like, your mom still competes and stuff? They're like, your mom runs with you? Like, she's like, Mom, like, thank you so much. Like, it's really cool you do that. And I was like,
wow. That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, so I think those moments are really special that I'm intentional about taking time to communicate with her, not in a way of like, you should listen to this, but they love it. Like my little one knows my podcast, knows my book, loves to listen to me on podcasts. She's like, that's my mom.
I know. That's
so
really cool.
That's fun. Yeah.
That's cool. One of the things I heard you say while you were talking about your kids is like, especially your youngest one, right?
Yeah.
That she's happy, she's having fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that gets very lost in starting kids young, or even just, in their high school, right? Are they having fun? And I think that's one of the best things to make sure that they're doing on up until it may be time to choose a sport.
Right.
You want it to be fun.
Yeah, and with her, I failed the first game. She goes out of the gate, and I'm like, we're ready for this. We had a good breakfast. We got to the field early. I'm like, we are in it.
There's the athlete.
And
you.
She is like, meh. And I was like, what is this kid doing? And she was scared. Of course she was scared. They were all bigger than her, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to her after, and she's like, can I get my snow cone? And I didn't get her snow cone that day. And this is where I say I fail sometimes. And I'm like, no, you got to work hard to earn that and this and that. And I was like, you were walking. This girl's smart. We then go and we watch an MLS game because we like to watch soccer, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, Mom, he's walking. He's walking too. Do you think he's getting a snow cone later? And I was like, okay. So we now make it a rule, no matter what, like get the snow cone, right?
Awesome.
So part of it is for her to like, just get the snow cone. Like she now likes to go to QT and get the slushy drink at QT.
Yep,
But
yep.
that's our memory that she has. Like it doesn't matter about her soccer games. It's the fact that we went and got a drink together after that makes her have a beautiful family moment and like enjoy it even more.
I love that. I love that. Even the older kids can do that.
We all get QT. That's what we do.
Yeah. Quick trip.
Yep.
Man, that's so much. That's some good stuff. At these sports tournaments, right? Doesn't matter what age. What kind of things do you cringe when you hear from parents in the stands? I like in the basketball world, I hear a lot, and I'm like, that's why I can't coach, because I'll be getting on some parents.
Yeah.
But talk to me.
It's hard, right? Because I sit there and I have to catch myself too. Like, don't coach your kid on the sidelines, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't coach your kids. And I've heard some parents talk so negative about their kid or about the coach or about the ref.
Yep.
And I really struggle. I struggle with that. The tone of voice, and I've seen fights happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen people coming across and like fighting a coach and then hitting a kid, and like it's just detrimental, you know. And part of me, especially at certain levels for youth, I want to look at them and be like, the problem with youth sport is not every sport organization requires a coaching license or coaching education. And so these parents forget that it might be a volunteer dad or mom coaching a kid to spend time with their kid. Maybe they've played the sport in high school. Maybe they never played the sport. Maybe they were a pro. Who knows? But, you know, because we don't have regulations around coaching at certain levels, anyone could be coaching your kid.
True.
And so I also want to say, hey, have you done a due diligence as a parent looking to say, what's the background of this coach? What's their coaching education? What's the club organization's philosophy?
Yep.
So then I can agree to that. Because if I'm going to complain about the coaching style and that they don't know what they're doing, I'm like, well, maybe they just want to enjoy time with their kid. You know, so that's where I struggle a lot too with these parents and the vulgar language and just the pressure that they place on their kids and how they talk to their kids after a game. Like,
Oh my gosh. After the game, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if their kid, there's different like situations, right? Their kid is maybe one of the best on the team and they blew a layup. I've seen it a lot in basketball. Or they don't get so much time. Like I've heard different parents talk about, why don't you do this like this player? That is the worst.
the social
For me, I'm like,
comparison.
even if my mom would just say that, I'm like, I don't need to do that like her. Like it hurts, right?
that is one of the number one rules that I talk to a lot of parents when I do parent education on the car ride home conversation.
Yes.
One, don't lead the conversation in the car ride home. Like, if your kid wants to talk about it, like, because my kid loves the debrief, and her dad and her, and I'm like, why are you saying anything? But that's their jam, right?
Yeah.
She wants to get it out. She wants to learn. She's
Cool.
eager. She's a very, like, firstborn, like, tell me everything so I can be better, right? That's her style. She wants to lean in. But I tell parents, like, if that's your kid, great, but never compare them to someone else on the other team or your team. That will not help them.
And within household too, huh? If you have a house full of athletes.
Oh, the biggest struggle I always have to say is we support everyone in our house. We're the biggest champions for everyone.
Yeah.
You are you. You don't have to be better than anyone else. If your sister is just rocking it, which look, the three other ones, like my oldest is killing it, right? She's great. She's smart. She's athletic. She plays band. She just loves the things because that's who she is.
Yeah.
Great. You have a beautiful role model to look after. You ain't got to do what she's doing. You should learn from her because she's doing some really great stuff.
Yeah.
But then you got to be you. So that's been really hard for like the first two. The other two are like, whatever, you know, but you know, like that's a hard challenge is don't compare yourself to someone else. And there is jealousy that exists, right? And I'm like, yeah, but it's also success and let's celebrate them. They're your family. They're your blood.
So you're talking about jealousy within the
In my
family.
kids, but there's also jealousy on the court all the time,
Yeah.
like for sure. Like I watched and look, I'll coach sometimes because, you know, we're passionate parents as well. And if you know the game, you played it. So like I was sitting in the last tournament in basketball, I'm sitting there and I'm watching my kid and another parent is just yapping. And his daughter looks at him and tells him to shut up.
I see it all the time.
And my kiddo looks at me and I'll just like kind of cue her. I'm like, head up, you know, like you got this. And she's like, and so the dad looks at me and goes, well, why is she nodding her head? Yes, you. What's it take for me to like actually get them to respond? Like you're like, my kid tells me to shut up. I'm like, I said, well, you want the honest answer? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm just being supportive. I'm not criticizing or telling her how to do things. I'm just telling her she's got this.
Yeah.
I'm just telling her you got this. Like kids will always look for social referencing to their parents. Like when they're little and they're like crawling or they're learning to go up a slide, they look back like, mom, is this safe? Dad, is this safe? Parents nod. They're like, yeah. Same thing on sport. That's why every kid's still looking to their parents for feedback. Like,
It's very true.
all you got to do is say, you got it.
Yeah.
You're doing great. Keep it up.
I love that you said that. One of the things when I was coaching AAU is I would tell parents, they really just want you to be their number one fan. Like, if they need a Gatorade, get the Gatorade. They left their shoes at the hotel. Go help. Go get them. But that's the number one thing that that I feel that they wanted. That's what I saw as a coach. But also, you made a good point too. Is like they are looking for the support from parents, and then also it gets confusing when coaches are saying one thing, right?
Yeah.
And if you're coaching as a parent, you're making them a little bit more confused because what's going to happen is they're going to choose mom and dad,
100%.
and it's going to be trouble.
Yeah.
Not trouble, but like it puts them in a weird position with their coach and the team, and
I know my kid had to check me because she goes, because sometimes I'll coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, hey, watch that middle lane, like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just get in my own way. And she goes, Mom, the funny thing is you'd say something and then coach would hear you and then coach say that same thing right after you. I was like, your coach is learning. She's young. She's figured it out. I was like, I shouldn't be saying anything.
Yeah.
But like, glad it was work.
That's cool. Glad you're on the same page, right?
And that's what I do tell parents. Like, if you are going to be on the sidelines and you are going to have a hard time not saying stuff, then learn what the coach's language is and hear what the coach says and then support that message.
Teamwork. I love it. You got some work to do.
I do.
I'm telling everybody.
I need some
I'm
like
telling
allies
everybody
and warriors.
about
Let's
you.
go.
Like, you need to get with Doc C. Get you right.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation today?
That we all need someone to be in our corner to help us, to guide us, to just be curious about yourself and use a resource, right? Like, we're all not going to get it right the first time, and we're going to have to come back. And I think I love your story where you're like, I went to therapy and then I came back and went back to it. Like, that is the therapeutic journey. Like, I'm doing it right if I see someone when they're 14 and they come back to me when they're 17.
Okay.
Then that means I built a trusted relationship, right? And so I think the ability to know that it's not just a one-time quick fix. Like, working on your mental and emotional game is like an ongoing thing. Maybe not all the time you're training hard, but having someone that's supportive and there to help you outside of the family system, unbiased, like that's real important and special.
That's awesome. I wanted to say this earlier in the podcast, but it flew my mind. But I was talking about me and my therapy journey.
Yeah.
And so I had a therapist after going through grief of my mom passing, and I got to the point where I was doing really well. And she was like, oh, so we were seeing each other every week. And she was like, okay, I think we should go down to, I don't know, twice a month. I was like, no, are you trying to break up with me?
Yeah.
No, we're doing good. So I'm gonna need to see you every Tuesday like we've been doing, I thought that was hilarious because I'm like, she's trying to break up with me.
Well, and it's funny because I think and I have to train a lot of people like that work for me as well. Like, there's a tendency to want to help someone out real fast. So then we try to do too much. It's like, no, back off, let the process work itself out. And I just constantly check in. It's like what you asked me in the very beginning is like, how do you set it up? I'm like, I ask them what they want out of this, know? And so if I ever get that feeling like, I think you're doing well, I might just be like, hey man, like, how are you feeling? You've done pretty well. Like, do you like our frequency? Do you want it to change? What would it look like if we did every other week or every couple weeks? For me, I've always found the flow and the dynamic always naturally works itself out in the cadence of when people need it.
Yeah.
And there's no predictability. I think that's a great point. Like, people always ask, like, what does it look like? How often do I have to come? And I say, well, I'd like to see you once a week for at least 3 weeks in a row. And then we figure out what works for you. If you want to meet weekly, awesome. If you want to meet every other week, like, we'll find the rhythm that fits your needs. I'm never going to overcharge or have someone stay in it just to stay in it, right? Like, I'm here for them to reach their goals. But that's when you have a really trusted dynamic, is you can have that conversation and be like, I don't want to stop coming. Like, don't break up with me. I'm like, okay, cool. As long as you're cool, we're cool. Like, like, let's work through that. So
Exactly.
I think it's a natural relationship. The relationship has to work for both people, and you guys have to have a path together of what you're doing.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for this conversation. It has been awesome. I love it.
I appreciate it.
One thing I'm starting new with you. I want to ask you what question do you want the next podcast guest to answer?
I love this.
Yes. I think it's going to be super fun.
What are they most proud of in their current journey?
Okay. I'll write that down, and I'm going to ask the next guest.
Yeah.
What is your favorite quote?
Well, it's a personal one.
Okay.
It's on my arm. And it says, my heart is your heart is my heart. And I got this from my girls because the first sound I ever heard of them was their heartbeat. And the first sound they ever heard was my heartbeat. And so this is kind of what we live by, and is our essence of, it's bigger than just that now, right? My heart is your heart is mine. It's like we're in this together, and like we'll always have each other.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I'm going to see you when I see you. Peace.